Welcome back to Freedom Algo. All right, we have a really bearish day today on the ES. So I'm going to show you how you could be scalping this and getting some really great setups. Now, this is a really bearish day overall, but there are some pretty bullish moves within this bearish day. So you have to be careful on days like today. There's a lot of measured moves and a lot of nuance. So I'm going to go over it. Let me zoom in here. And this big bearish channel, by the way, I drew from here through this high. So the highs aren't really that connected yet. The lows were fitting until just now. We started to break through. So it is possible that this is more like this, where it's maybe like this high through maybe here. This might actually fit better. Like the bigger bearish channel might be kind of starting down here, in which case we haven't actually tapped it yet. So there's a possibility there. This pink line was a gap fill that I'd been waiting on for a while, and finally it's happening. So I'm just going to zoom in real quick and see what this is looking like down here. Looks like it's possible. So I'm going to leave that channel on there just in case. But anyway, this big bearish channel was in play. Basically what you had today coming in was this. I'm going to zoom in there, and you can see here, let's turn off my camera so that I'm not in the way. You have this down channel working. So you had this slight up channel in the overnight, break, new high, down channel working, break, new low. Now, this would have been a trade that you could have taken here. This was at like 5:30 in the morning my time. So you kind of get a first entry, second entry short. It's kind of a third entry short. However, this is just sideways right here. So really what you see is a break of a channel, first leg down, and then this is kind of all one leg, second leg down. You kind of have to ignore that consolidation, and that's why it's a green. It's not a perfect setup. It's kind of like a third entry by the count, but it's really, two legs of correction looking for a new low. Turns into a new low, comes down, and then let me delete this line. We don't need that on there. And I had a measured move. I drew this leg down eventually over here, and then I drew it down again from this high just in case, and that was one of my measured move targets. So we end up going kind of sideways here, and we started off the day in this range where we kind of had these highs up here, these lows down here, this sort of blue line. And I had an actual range drawn that I moved over time, so you can kind of see this range here. I know this looks a little bit wild, but that's because there's been a lot of different channels today. And so I was playing the short-term channels. You're kind of coming out. Eventually, you're looking for a new high on this channel that you don't get. You've already got the new low played out. So when you come over here, you get this pullback. That's a new low. First entry. This pullback, higher low, second entry. So that's a second entry long. Still looking for a new high on this. You got some space to the EMA, so that was a decent one, but not perfect with the way that it was. It was kind of sideways. Then it comes up. You get this high here, pulls back. Let's see. Right off the top of the range high. At the time, you probably wouldn't have known this was the range high. You might have had it drawn. So there's not really any setups in there until over here, because now you have this high and you have a first entry, second entry long, right off the bottom of the range. It's kind of a triple test, roughly, maybe a four tests of that level, higher low than these. So I like that one. Then it starts to make lower highs here, lower high there, and then it goes down. And at this point, I drew this and started to have a spike in channel pattern. So I drew this one here and kind of had that going down. But we break out of the bottom of the range because I wasn't sure if the range was going to win or not. And it ends up losing right here. So you can see you get this first entry, second entry failure that keeps going down. And so then you had this channel that was drawn and you had this low. It kind of matches up here. So it works out really well the way that it was drawn. Bounces right off this level, comes up. I was looking for a second entry short here, but the candle was just not bearish enough. It was more of a doji, so you couldn't take that, unfortunately. You didn't get a good trade set up there. Was really hoping for a short because I wanted to get a new low. So then I waited for a higher low. You just didn't get one. So you had to skip it. Then you come down. Now, eventually I did move my range lows down here because it looked like we might, bounce around here. And you can see that we did bounce from here and then go up. So, I had a measured move down here, and then eventually I drew this as one of my legs, and then I drew it from there, and we actually reached the measured move. So what you end up with over here is from this high, a first entry, second entry short, long failure. So this is just a quick little trap. That's all that was. Just a little scalp. You're just, it's risky because you already made the new low, but you're just thinking it's pretty bearish today. If this channel's in play, this could have trapped some longs, and it looks like it did, but then it reverses right away. I didn't really see a way to enter this. It was 17 ticks. It is a higher low, and does look like rejection. However, if this channel was in play, which it still was at that point, you didn't want to take the risk of going long into it. It ends up breaking through, makes this short channel, makes a new high. It ends up looking kind of like a spike in channel pattern that goes up here. Eventually it breaks. There's not really any entries here, just the way that these candles printed, you just didn't really get one. You eventually have this short-term channel working down. Now I have a few channels drawn over here because today this was kind of the theme. There was a lot of short channels, short-term channels within bigger channels. So this one you have this down channel working. This is actually a trade that I did take right here as well. So you have this pullback, first entry long, pullback, second entry long failure. So right here, the better trade was the lower high after the failure. That's the better trade. You get a better entry and it's safer and a smaller stop loss, but they both work out. And so then I did draw this leg to measure to see if we were going to get a second leg down, which we did. So after this new low, it comes up and reverses again. And that's when I drew this channel off of kind of this high, and it ends up connecting over here. So now we had a bigger channel. We had this another tight channel working down. There's just no entries there. This one, obviously tempting, but it's still within this tight channel, so you can't take that long, even though it's far away from the EMA. And the higher low just doesn't look very good as a doji. You don't really get anything there. You do get a short here, and the way I saw this was kind of treated this like a double bottom and counted this as a first entry, second entry short. That looked like it was going to trap all these people trying to get long here. They kept trying to get long, and it just wasn't going. And then it goes up one tick and fails, so I thought that was like a nice little trap of the longs. It was just a scalp. It then ends up coming up and then giving you this short here, which is a nice rejection. It's off of the trend line. And even if you had this channel line drawn tighter, it's still a break and you're expecting a new low. So you could see it like that, or you could see it as closing within. And you could kind of see this as a wider one leg, two leg, like a bigger second entry short. So that's a kind of the way that I looked at that one. It's really just a first entry off these lows, but it looks like a bigger two legs, and you're still expecting a new low over here because you didn't get a new low yet. So it ends up going down, giving you the new low, goes sideways here for a second. You don't get much out of that. Breaks up, and then here you get a first entry short, second entry short. Now, you already had a new low, but it's a pretty bearish day overall. This could have been the first actual break of this wider channel. And so if that's the case, you're expecting it to come back. You're far away from the EMA, so it's a decent one. And then you end up getting a lower high here that ends up being the safer trade. So those end up both being pretty good setups that work out. It then comes up and breaks above. The other thing about this one is that this was kind of a triple test. The reason it's green is it's slightly higher than this one because you kind of had this high, this high, this high, and then it kind of closed back down. That was a decent one. I liked this one as well because you could still see that as like a little bit of a higher triple test. It's kind of a triple test of this high, this high, this high, and it's a lower high. So I did like that one. Kind of both in a way, triple tests. All right, then this one comes up, and again, this is that channel off of there, possibly. I do have the wider channel in play that didn't end up getting tapped. So then this one comes down. You don't get much here. You got a new channel that starts working off of this high, comes out. You do get a close outside over here. And so this is a possible short because you have this first entry long, pullback, second entry long, failure, and you're looking for a new low there. So it's just kind of a continuation pattern. And then ends up being a wider channel. So now you have this wider channel working. There's not really any entries, unfortunately. Comes down, breaks off the bottom of this channel here that we have drawn, which is the Uh, sorry, zoom out for a second. That's the big channel that I had on here, and it ends up fitting pretty nicely right there. So it bounces up. You get a break of this channel. And this one is kind of interesting because you end up with basically a new high that's kind of like there's a lot of wick like sideways action right here, but you could almost see this like first entry, so first entry short, and see this even though it goes up and breaks down one tick here, it's very sideways. So you could almost see this as a bigger first entry, second entry short, and that's why it's a green. It's a little risky. It's above the EMA now, but you could kind of see it like that as like a bigger second entry short. So not a perfect setup, a little more advanced. Ends up giving us a short-term channel that breaks and gets a new low. The little bit of a wider channel also breaks and gets a new low. And then we come down to this gap fill that I've been waiting on. And you end up just getting a pretty decent fill of this, but it doesn't even reject. I was originally thinking, hey, maybe it would reject here and give us a long, but it's just too bearish. So it does look like this original wider channel that I had, the big channel from the overnight high all the way down, it could be that this is an overshoot. It could also be that this thing is bigger, but like again, then it doesn't really fit that well. The midline fits okay there, but I don't love that because originally I had it from these lows. So it's either kind of an overshoot or or it's just that the real down channel is this one that we just drew from this high over here, working down through maybe that close. It almost touches that one. You don't really have a lot of touches to know for sure, but it's getting pretty close to this channel. So it might just be that this channel is kind of the one that's in play right here. Sometimes when I change the color, it moves the channel. I don't know. A little annoying, but um, I don't like that. All right. So it could just be that that's the channel right there, and that's basically the setup. And so that's pretty much all I saw today. There is a possible first entry long, second entry long failure here, but you're too close to the lows. So you don't really get anything there, even though it's kind of within there. You're just not, you're already getting the new low over here. So you just don't really get much here. I'm going to actually push this channel back and just do that so it's not in the way. And just kind of see this as, hey, this is probably the channel that we're working in. It is the case that this could be this might not even be an overshoot. It might just be that this thing is wider overall, and I just don't have it drawn wide enough. So it is possible, but either way, this is kind of getting us to the same place. And now we're going to come back and see, it looks like if we're going to maybe test the other side of this gap fill area. But I'm done for the day. That is going to be everything from me, and I will see all of you tomorrow.